Hello, hello, my beauties and bees, and welcome to Creation Watch, where we are celebrating our very last episode of Creation Watch on Live from the Hive. Aww. No, it's good. This is good news because I've decided that Creation Watch, in order to keep it going, that I need to have co-hosts with me when I do Creation Watch to help me demolish these bad ideas. Whether it's someone who knows a bit about physics, crushing some flat Earth, or someone who knows a bit about history, crushing some Tartaria, or young Earth creationism, things like that. Biblical scholars, if I can get them on, we're gonna crack open some bad creation logic and explore it as a team. So this will be the last episode of Creation Watch on Life from the Hive. The good news is this weekend's a double feature of Creation Watch too, because it's also going to have our first episode of Life from the Hive with panel guest. Let's get back to our Creation Watch topic. So for today, I thought I would explore unbroken ground. As always, I like to dabble into new channels and see what they offer as far as the finest of woo. So this is Cosmic Agency with Swaru de Era, Athena Swaru, Minerva Swaru, Sophia Swaru, Anika de Tirmer, Dor Kiril, and they all got like Marvel superhero uniforms on. Some of them look very young. Sophia particularly looks like she's not an adult. They have chats that they do. They got videos like mix of metaphysical chats as a playlist here, I guess. 37 minutes long. You got 11-minute metaphysical chat with Yazi Swaru about influencing timeline. Let's see, which one's Yazi? Yazi's not even on here. You keep just making up these new Swarus. I can't keep up. Is anybody keeping up with all these Swarus? What? Historical lies. We might look at that too at some point. But this is the one we're looking at today. This is our golden ticket. Did dinosaurs exist? What does Tigatan Pleiadian team state? Do dinosaurs exist? Let's dive in. And no, it's not muted. There's just no sound yet. There you go. Sophia is Yazi. Okay. So wait a minute. Which one was Sophia, though? Okay, we got the dinosaur on the screen. That's great. Which one's Sophia? I want to know who I'm listening to. Sophia's the little one. It's this little bitty one that's going to be talking about dinosaurs. So this little child is going to teach us what dinosaurs are fake.
Between 2018-2019.
And what about dinosaurs, Swaru?
Many species of dinosaurs, or that would rather fall under the description of dinosaur, did exist. But the ones that definitely did not exist are some famous and silly species, such as Brontosaurus, Tyrannosaurus, Triceratops, and so on, which are inventions of the 19th century.
Whoa, wait. What makes those ones silly, and which ones aren't silly? So some of them existed, but some of them didn't. And some of them are, and the ones that you just listed, the Brontosaurus. What'd you say? I don't want to misquote you.
The numbers are inventions of Tyrannosaurus, silly species, such as Brontosaurus, Tyrannosaurus,
Tyrannosaurus,
Triceratops, and so on.
Triceratops, and so on. So why are those ones made up in inventions of the 19th century? But it's just funny because Tyrannosaurus was discovered in the 20th century, not the 19th century, in 1909, I want to say, unless you want to count the Megaspondylus find, but that wasn't recognized as a Tyrannosaurus until much later. So they still didn't know it was a Tyrannosaurus in the 19th century. And the Brontosaurus wasn't a thing until 2015. There was the Brontosaurus that was the part of the find was considered to be synonymous with Apatosaurus. And then in 2015, a reevaluation of the Brontosaurus holotype did reveal that it would be counting as a new species of short and chunky diplodocid. So it is a very unique member of the Diplodocus clade, and because they're usually really long and skinny, have super long necks, but the Brontosaurus was especially short and chunky for a Diplodocid, and it's probably the shortest and chunkiest. I think it's the shortest and chunkiest, but
of the 19th century. By the way, the numbers called Roman are not of Roman origin. They are Etruscan, but the Romans have taken them as their own.
What are we talking about? This is supposed to be about dinosaurs.
And all those skeletons.
The skeletons are not complete. They are fakes. The ones they have in the museums are plaster. They pass them off as real.
They do not pass them off as real. Most people with any level of I don't want to be too insulting, with any level of common sense is going to know that you're not, and there are exceptions to this, but in general, you cannot build a reconstruction with the actual fossils because of the stone that they're because they're not actually bone. That's not bones that you're looking at. And they will have the real fossils, but because the actual bones are so heavy and do not lend themselves well to building a reconstruction. Sometimes they'll have the reconstruction in front of you where you can see it, and then they'll have glass cases in the front with actual pieces of the whole dinosaur that you can see. Like, oh, this is the mandible of the Tyrannosaurus, and the Tyrannosaurus is up here. Now, there are exceptions, especially back in when they first started trying to do these reconstructions, which was started by what's his name? Dude who reconstructed the Moa. Owens, Sir Richard Owens. With him making that Moa, reconstruction of that Moa, that was it. And then it's like, we rebuilt all these dinosaurs, all these extinct creatures. So then everybody started wanting to do it. But we did learn pretty early on that you weren't going to actually be able to rebuild them with the bones themselves. You were going to have to cast the bones and then reconstruct them with a lighter material that lends itself more to building a skeleton, freestanding skeletal structure than stone. Plaster's a good option. I've seen different museum models where they will actually fill in the parts that they don't have with a different color, so you know what's actually known from the fossil record and what is interpreted from the shape of the and the anatomy of the animal, as we can infer from its relatives and from what we have of its remains, and we can rebuild that. Not all fossils, not all, I guess I should say, skeletons, not all individuals are complete, right? There's mostly they're not. Mostly, having over 30% of a fossil of an organism is like super rare and exciting, because if it's a bilateral organism like you and me, it means that if you have 30% of it, potentially you have 60% of it, right? As long depending on what parts overlap, but you can have upwards of that altogether if you just have half of it. All right, let's get going here.
Or say they are replicas. The real ones are so incomplete that it is impossible to assemble an animal with them. So they complete them using their imagination.
No, they complete them using math. They just measure the pieces and make the cast of how they think that looking at how these pieces go together and taking the measurements and doing the calculations, where these pieces go. Each individual piece, like of a crushed skull, so they could have, like you're talking about the reconstruction, they could have a skull that's completely shattered to fractals, and they can, using their micrometers and their lasers and everything, they can sort out the shape and alignment of each piece of bone to put it back together. People do that now with real organisms and real things. They that have been crushed. They can put them back together. It's crazy, but they can. I can't. I'm just don't get that. Maybe I do. I don't know. I've never actually tried, but that precision touch.
And an entire story has been built around them since the 19th century. Many skeletons are assembled or completed with bones from other animals, such as cows or even cat bones in some cases.
Where are they using cow bones in a dinosaur reconstruction? I don't believe you now. I think you're just making stuff up. Cat bones? What cat is big enough to... I mean, I'm assuming that you think all dinosaurs are big, because the only ones that you have talked about so far are the giant ones. But what bones of a cat could they possibly use?
And the Tyrannosaurus skull pieces are not from that species. They are Alpha Draconian, among other species.
Ooh, Alpha Draconian.
Doubts, or some doubts.
Alpha Draconian, y'all. You heard it here first. What is a Tyrannosaur? Alpha Draconian.
About the latter, because they are too small to be Alpha Draconian. But some experts here assure that they are. And what do they care that we believe in dinosaurs?
Dr. Tapioca Weasel dropping those memberships like they're hot. Love you, babe. Appreciate you. Look who's getting them, too. We got John Hudson, got one, and we got Ring and Aunt Jur, Brian Stevens, and Mark Reed all got a membership, y'all. That's awesome sauce. Let's see. The dinosaur bones was found at the end of the well-worn path that led up to the site where Jesus was crucified. He was as faithful steed until the end. Okay. Yeah. I'm with you on that. Jesus dinosaur steed.
Because it is now a story built around the naturalist boom of the mid-19th century. And for honor reasons, they can't back down now and accept that...
Wait a second. That's another dinosaur that's not from the 19th century. Spinosaurus is from the 20th century. There are lots of dinosaurs from the 19th century that you could show. Lots of them. A lot of famous ones, too. But Spinosaurus isn't among them, right? Spinosaurus isn't, and neither is T-Rex.
Famous dinosaurs are fake. I accept that a Tyrannosaurus skull has similarities with some Alpha Dracos subspecies, such as the Alpha Naga, of which I have not yet spoken. But both the teeth and the skull are not big enough.
The T-Rex is not big enough. Its skull is not big enough to be the Alpha Draconis. What skull are you looking for? I can't think of any predator with a bigger skull than a Tyrannosaur. I mean, obviously terrestrial predator. You get into the water, we can talk. We can talk about some real sea dragons. We can talk about that massive skull of Leviathan. Not the biblical Leviathan, but the actual prehistoric whale that is named after the biblical Leviathan, and then Melvini, which is named after Herman Melville, who wrote Moby Dick, because it's a megaphyster, which is the sperm whale family, which Moby Dick was. Yeah. How did I get on Moby Dick? I was talking about big predator skulls. Yeah, I think that other than the sea animals, definitely the biggest skull that I can think of is strapped to the Tyrannosaurus. So whatever these Alpha Draconis are, they're not They're not known from any fossil record that we have.
And what are those useless little arms for? The animal makes no sense from a practical point of view. And the skeleton cannot support the weight of such a living animal. And the dinosaurs that...
Wait, but you just talked about an animal that was much bigger than this. You said, yeah, this is too small for the Draconis. But yet you're proposing something that this big is too big to work mechanically. And that's wrong. We have lots of models about how and in what ways Tyrannosaurus locomotion was possible. Not only that, we've got specs on it and stuff that we've run lots of models. I know that that Mark Reed doesn't say that a model failing is falsification, but I think it is. That's a good way to falsify a model. We got to talk about that again sometime. Now that I'm feeling feistier, Mark. Last time I was kind of in a frumpy, dumpy state. So, but I will re-engage with you about the aspects of science that way soon, my friend, because it would be a hoot and a half. But the Tyrannosaurus's arms that people always like to point out and talk about are not, again, and you all know this now from just watching me over and over and over again say this, the Tyrannosaurus arms are actually not as weak and useless as people tend to present them as. They're bigger than a human's arms, and they're stronger than any primate arm. They served multiple purposes, from helping the organism get up and down from a laying position, to facial grooming, and obviously copulation. If that's all the purpose they served for was copulation, even, that would be worth it. That'd be like the vestige legs on a whale. Now, if Tyrannosaurs were absolutely the floofiest, you may not be able to even see their arms very much, but they'd still be there performing their functions. You just wouldn't notice them.
were there. What were they like? And where have they gone? We would have to look at each species to see which ones are and which ones are not real. Yes, I have the precise data. They become extinct.
So we're getting into David Icke territory here, because I've pulled up Alpha Draconis, or looked it up, and it's the Thuban. Alpha Draconis, or Draconis, is a binary star system in the northern constellation of Draco, a relatively inconspicuous star in the night sky of the northern hemisphere. It is historically significant as having been the North Pole star for the 4th and 2nd millennia BC. So it was been the pole star before. Okay, and then we get into conspiracy theories. According to British conspiracy theorist David Icke, Alpha Draconis is the origins of blood-drinking, shape-shifting reptilians who lurk in underground bases in Earth and plot against humanity against humidity. They should like humidity if they're reptiles, with the aid of powerful figures, including royalty. So that's the reptilian theory, right? But there's this lady is advising that no, these guys are huge. They're bigger than a tyrannosaur. Their skulls are bigger than a tyrannosaur. So I'm super lost on how this is related, because other people are saying that the Alpha Draconians are like human sized and the shapeshifters. Oh, you taking off, Dee? All right. Was John taking off? Okay. All right. You have a good one, John.
In a place when it no longer suits them as a species, but they continue in other planets, as happens with all the others. Athena's Varus' recent comment, February 2023. Everything is false there. Everything. It's just incredible. Now it's coming out that fossils are artificially made, and since the 19th century. They even
So this is like almost like to the level of the devil hid them there to trick us. To what cause and purpose, my dear, do we benefit from faking dinosaur fossils? Please elaborate.
pass the scrutiny of scientists and geologists. They do it with chemicals and at the same time subjecting the bone to very high pressures, as with a press. So Sunday roast chicken bones would pass for being from the Jurassic very seriously. On Earth,
They microwaved them to trick the scientists. That turns them to stone. Chicken bones turn to stone if you put them in the microwave. You heard it here first, people. I was not aware of that because fossils are stone. They're made of stone. They're mineral. I keep saying stone, but yeah, mineral's a better way to describe them. They're the organic matter is gone. There's nothing organic left. But they're not the same material that they were when they were alive. Sorry.
their fossilization methods are already coming to light. Conversation with ex-contactees. Interviewers' names changed to Gosha. May 2021. What do you know about dinosaurs? Some existed, some did not. The first big famous ones discovered in the 19th century, sadly for children, didn't exist. I am talking about Triceratops, Brontosaurus, Tyrannosaurus, Megalosaurus, and the
Tyrannosaurus was not from the 19th century.
like. What I can say is that here they are not considered real. It is not seen as possible. Yes, there are big animals like that on other planets, but not exactly like that. And those other planets have a lower gravity than Earth, like 0.6 or 0.7 G.
There's giant reptilian monsters on other planets, but they have lower gravity. I like how they're like real science. Like we say real science. They're like the science is wrong. The science is fake. These animals didn't actually exist. They're made up. But yeah, there's giant reptiles on other planets, of course. You know, on other star systems. And this is coming from like, yeah, this 12-year-old said she channeled it from some saurian aliens.
What made scientists believe that there existed giant reptiles? I remember that they only found pieces of some of them.
It really
like
is purple.
Tyrannosaurus rex. And then the Royal Society of London started to reconstruct them with bones of cows, horses, dogs, and cats because they saw.
Wait. Dogs, horses. This is a monstrosity right here. Look at this. A Triceratops skull on a stegosaur body. That's like bizarre. However, what is she even talking about? Cows, and does she think that this is what the fossils look like when they're found? Like they're laying on the surface like cow skeletons in the desert in an old cartoon. They're like you dig them up and they're not generally they're not like three-dimensional and stuff. Usually they're smashed down into a two-dimensional space. A good exception to that is Triceratops skulls, which do tend to be heavy and robust enough to preserve just as they are. Ceratopsian skulls are sort of like that, pretty hardcore. But what kind of bones, because they're talking about cows and stuff, what kind of animal, I keep trying to scroll down to see the center of this Triceratops skull, what kind of animal would they use to make this skull, I wonder? Because I can't think of anything with a skull big enough to make a ceratopsin, let alone like a Triceratops or a Torosaurus that are monstrous.
No economic interests in that. But what I know is that, objectively, an animal of that size, in a gravity of a terrestrial G, would have to have much larger bones and another bone structure, another design, because it's...
Dinosaurs don't have big enough bones? What are you talking about? Dinosaurs have massive bones. Biggest bones that we know from, again, terrestrial animals are from dinosaurs.
Viscera would be too heavy to stay inside its thoracic cavity. In itself, the total weight.
Steph says these nutters think constellations named after mythical creatures prove that the creatures actually exist, and I live there. The star configuration that gave them the name only visible from Earth. No, listen, Steph. So we are from the Milky Way galaxy. And we are the only intelligent life in the galaxy with titties to make milk. Is that a coincidence? Are you saying that happened by happenstance that we got these titties? I just like showing off my titties.
Weight would destroy the bones, as officially shown. So for that reason alone,
I do like these
dinosaur
models though.
Concept is not right. The design is not compatible with life.
Yes, it is. You just don't understand how physics work and how anatomy works and how biology works. That's okay. But trust the people doing the experiments on the physiological capabilities of these organisms, and you'll see that they were indeed quite capable of locomotion.
Another point, from my perspective, as I have told you many times, animals, species, are shared among many planets, among those that have a capacity to sustain life of that kind, according to the species and its needs. Because they don't evolve on the planet. They are seeded.
It gets you everywhere, and I just dropped three viewers when I did that. Not getting me too far, is it?
On planets. And there are no dinosaurs like those famous ones on any other planet, when there should be.
It's like I went to all these planets, or I've explored all these planets, and they don't have dinosaurs, and they should if they're real. I'm like, what? Trying to follow that logic train, team. Yeah, what's with that, Hive?
So, would that whole historical period be false? There was no Jurassic? The problem is time again. If it is already difficult to calculate something from 15,000 years ago, it is unrealistic to try to date things from more than 65 million years ago.
Was that supposed to be a sarcastic voice? 65 million years ago. So there are different methods for dating different time periods of varying quality and accuracy, and they all interlace together to give us a tapestry of the time frames of the history of Earth. There are pockets and periods of Earth's history that we don't have. We have before and after, and we have to fill in the gaps of what happened in between. But we know the time frames, and there's some stuff that we know what happened here during this time period. We don't know what happened here. We know what happened over here during this time period. We don't know what happened down here. It depends on what's preserved, what we have available to collect data from. Again, there's various types of dating that we can apply depending on what's been found. Yeah.
They use carbon-14, but it's practically useless because it gives wrong dates all the time.
They never use. Please show me anybody using carbon-14 to date a dinosaur bone. Show me. I don't believe you. Carbon-14 is not used to date anything past. You get past getting into the 40,000 years. It starts the window starts to get really, really wide, like thousands of years wide. So it starts to lose its viability about between 40 and 50,000 years. And that depends on the conditions of the preservation, right? Whether the carbon-14 is available. But there's other isotopes that we can use besides carbon-14 to calculate this type of information. So she's wrong on that.
And drastically wrong. So it's garbage of a system. It uses the decay rate of the radioactive compound
It's not just carbon.
carbon-14, which is said to be stable and takes millions of years as a constant.
No, 50,000. 50,000 max. You're confused. There's other isotopes that we can use to measure different time periods, but carbon-14 is just for more recent stuff. It's the most recent. Carbon-14 can't be used to date things that are old. For cougars beyond 40K years old, it's not even a bad pickup line, let alone a dating method. Oh boy.
It measures the decay of carbon-14 in organic compounds specifically, being that living or recent ones have carbon-14 at 100 and decay from there. The problem is that there are other things and other radioactive compounds that alter these readings. So the age of a living...
And you don't think that the people examining these labs samples from these different periods are accounting for other compounds, both organic and inorganics, and their influence on the, whether it's carbon-14 or what are some other ones? Radium argon. Is that? Yeah, I think that's one. There are quite a few different isotope methods, but they account for the other compounds that are present at the dig site, right?
mollusk has been calculated in millions of years, which cannot be. And something of millions of years has been calculated as recent. That's
there you go.
why it's garbage.
Potassium argon. I misspoke. Radium argon. Potassium argon. Yeah, gives you a little bit more time frame, a larger time frame, but it also has a larger error bar. So yeah, it all balances out. There's different ones that overlap, and we're able to cross-reference with other dating methods, including everything from plate tectonic to genomic divergence. So yeah, it's these things again all interlaced in this huge tapestry.
It is also calculated by other method, which is by the soil stratum. That is, how far down is something buried under layers and layers of soil that in theory accumulates over time.
In theory. So you don't understand what soil is then? Because it's not just in theory, it's in like applied applied ecology. Soil accumulates. Soil is matter. Matter, and there are minerals in soil, but not so much as there is organic matter from organic matter from organisms, from dead animals, animal waste, animal molts and sheds, and all this. It's plant decaying, plant matter. All that stuff makes up the soil, right? And then there's organic organisms in it as well. The fun thing about soil, though, is dinosaurs and whales and all these big organisms fossilize, and they fossilize a record of this huge animal that lived in this region. Soil fossilizes too, and it tells us other stuff about the area and what it was like during the time, from what kind of plants and insects lived there. It tells us the climate, the precipitation, all this stuff. And these are fossil layers of soil, of basically an ecology preserved in time, that, given the proper treatment and inspection, can tell us a lot about where the big giant bones that we're finding, what kind of world that they lived in.
The problem with this is that the Earth is not fixed, receiving soil on top of it for millions of years. It moves, it turns, there is erosion, It rains, and there are floods and landslides. Although
Yep, pushing all that material that we just talked about, all that soil, the organic material mixed with loose minerals, pushing it all around. And what do you think soil is? Yeah, it moves it. It pushes it downriver, downhill. That's why mountains are rocky, and then valleys are filled with dirt and soil that grow stuff good. And that's why that is. Gravity. All the forces that you're just talking about move all that soil down. Moves the big fossils down too, because the dead things, when the water catches them, they go down that hill too. But also all those paleo souls that are deposited, they're in there as well.
Effectively, I find it a little more reliable than carbon-14.
Because carbon-14 is
And there is also
not the isotope you should be looking at.
the problem of calculating time, which is not a constant, as you know. More so before the
True, because of the theory of relativity.
lunar matrix. So everything together makes it impossible to calculate the period with accuracy, as the Jurassic would be where the big dinosaurs lived. So yes,
Well, the Cretaceous was really the dinosaurs' heyday. They ramped up. They never stopped. They never stopped going up until the extinction, and they dropped off completely. So the Jurassic wasn't their heyday. The Cretaceous was.
I can say that some did.
Ooh, hold on. We got some facts and knowledge coming from Dr. Tapioca Weasel. There was radium-226. Actinium-227 method for nuclear forensics just found. Yeah. Look at that. All kinds of dating methods.
But most likely, and by pure skeletal structure logic data, they could not have existed. And there is a motive to create them, invent them. It is a matter of reputations and monetary interests in 19th century London.
Monetary interest. Yeah, big paleo, right?
Now, about modern dinosaurs
Again, not 19th century Tyrannosaurus.
found, many new species of dinosaurs are being discovered in China. But it turns out that, coincidentally, they are being found on the extensive land owned by a Chinese company dedicated to making dinosaur bone replicas for museums and collectors.
Oh boy,
All part
it's all a conspiracy.
of the Chinese Communist Party.
The
Too many things don't
Did you know that dinosaurs were part of the Chinese Communist conspiracy? I just found that out today.
add up for them to have been real animals. But of course, other species did
Staying
exist,
hydrated, guys.
but more medium-sized ones, like elephant at the most, or smaller ones, like velociraptor, perhaps, since it is related to modern birds of prey, like the eagle. But in itself,
So they accept
the
evolution between. I'm just trying to figure out where these people are. Honestly, they're sort of between denying evolution happened and saying that it did because raptors are related to eagles. So I'm like, where you at, guys?
Dinosaurus, Brontosaurus, Triceratops, Stegosaurus, Allosaurus, Gigantosaurus. I doubt very much that they were real.
Well, I mean, there were big sauropods in the Jurassic, but the biggest sauropods are from the Cretaceous. The biggest of all dinosaurs are from the Cretaceous. The Cretaceous was an awesome time period to be a dinosaur.
In addition, the original bones can never be seen, let alone studied by paleontologists.
You can
All
literally
those
go
of
on a
the
dig.
system.
You can literally go on a dig and help. All you gotta do is sign up, and you can go out into the field, and I'll give you a brush, show you how to do it, and you can help dig up a dinosaur, real thing.
And the club, because they are very, very controlled as well. That in itself also raises serious suspicions.
I think your suspicion should be to your telepathic draconian aliens that are sending you stories in your brain. I think that's probably what we should be suspicious about.
So, what would be in the Jurassic, Cretaceous, first appearance of mammals? All this would be unsubstantiated, assembled data, right?
Well, I mean, mammals are more complicated than that. We had there was a lot of Therian stuff going on in the early Triassic, so we're not sure exactly when what can be considered a mammal first appeared exactly. We don't have that individual specimen. We have a lot of little mouse-sized creatures that lived during the early Jurassic that are Therian or some type of Therian that is close to or resembles mammals. But we stayed that way and had a lot of time to hone in on these warm-blooded power-ups that we were able to get from living at night.
At least with the foundations within the reach of human science, without forgetting that what they say will always be according to the interests of.
Oh yeah, there were animal or mammals up to the size of like a black bear during the time of dinosaurs. There was at least one animal that got that big and was thought to have. It didn't live like a black bear, I don't think. It was built more like a badger, and was very primitive. Can't remember the name of it. Now I'm going to have to look that up. I'm going to
Booksellers and the companies they own. Regarding the appearance of mammals, we would have to go into the evolution of species. Non-human.
Here we go. It was. Oh, it's bright. Yuck. Okay, I fixed it. Can I look at the pictures though? Oh well, we'll just pull it over. So, this was the largest Mesozoic mammals. They look kind of like, they kind of remind me of Tasmanian devils. But they were pretty big. Yeah, they're called, they are Giganticus. Pretty neat looking creatures. Yeah, how do you say this? Ropinomamus giganticus, the biggest mammal of the Mesozoic. Pretty sweet, huh?
Science does not accept Darwinian evolution as a scientific fact. In itself,
Wait, who doesn't?
Non-human science does not accept Darwinian evolution as a scientific fact.
Non-human scientists don't accept Darwinian evolutionists. So this is basically my dad bigger than your dad. Because, oh yeah, your earth scientists think that evolution is real. Well, my interstellar psychic scientists, reptilian, draconians, don't think it's real. Who's smarter? Your little monkey scientist on a little ball, or interstellar reptiles that have been around for millions of years? You do the math. I do want a 2-ton sloth back, though. Yeah, there was an age of proto-mammals, synapsids. They used to call them proto-mammals. Yeah. The early synapsids, gorgonopsids, were huge. They got to the size of, like, big bears. Like, they got the size of polar bears, right? And there were, Dimetrodon was earlier on in the Permian, but they had a sail on their back to absorb heat. Later on, this feature was lost in Therians, which is where we get down to our ancestors coming into their own, managing to squeak through the Permian great dying at the end and give us some hope that mammals may once again rise to the top. We had to wait a long time, though.
In itself, as the name indicates, Darwin's theory of the evolution of species, it is a theory. But in
It's just a theory, guys.
itself, in universities, students are forced to accept it as an irrefutable fact, under penalty of expulsion from the system and therefore the end of their careers.
You don't know what a theory is. Sorry. And no, you don't have to force to accept it. You're shown the data and the evidence, and it's just there as true.
What
Welcome back,
non-human
Tux.
science indicates, and not only Taigetan science, is that there is no evolution of species.
Where does Wiener go?
On Earth, there are only two ways to explain the existence of animals. One, evolution, as stated by Darwin. Two, divine.
Well, there'd be other evolution. What about Lamarck? What about evolution as stated by Lamarck? That's an option too.
Creationism. For advanced interstellar civilizations, it is neither of those two things. Species are seeded on the planets, some as creations of other advanced races,
We were seeded here by the Pleiadians.
other times simply to encourage diversity in the stellar garden, moving species from one place to another as
We're just one little flower bed in the stellar garden, guys. One little flower
it
bed.
is deemed appropriate, and as they can be developed by interstellar species using spacecraft. Applying here also the concept that at least most of the natural existing species have always existed as direct manifestation of the creative consciousness of the whole, of the ether, of the original source, being in themselves not even creations, but expressions of the source, being that
Turtle.
they are the source.
Boop.
But the human mind cannot handle the concept of eternity, nor
Why not? I actually like the concept of eternity. I think it's sweet. I think it gives us some reverberation. Yeah.
of has always existed, nor that something never had a beginning and never will have an end. Species as a manifestation of an idea, of an identity.
Manifest species as an idea. Like, hey, look at those horses. I bet they look good with some stripes. And then you zap them with your Jesus powers.
The direct
Or sorry, this isn't Jesus powers. This is reptilian powers.
reflection or expression of a concept that the source holds, as a material expression of an idea. That
Hydrating.
idea is a soul. So it expresses itself in the
Boop.
material as that particular animal.
What's the evidence of these souls that you claim to exist? Where can they be found in nature? How can we examine them and show that they exist? I want to see some evidence for them. You're sitting here dismissing all the stuff that we do have evidence for as not being true. But you have this, we're going to call it a theory. I'm going to call it a hypothesis of the soul. Show me evidence for your hypothesis, please.
But in itself, without complicating it further, it is not a material expression, as in that there is the spiritual expressing itself materially, but it is the same. The animal is the idea of identity that the source holds to try to explain itself, to have a point of attention apart from itself, to try to observe itself.
So you're talking about sentience, I guess. So you think souls are, that sentient equals soul?
And it tries to observe itself to be, to think, to exist as consciousness.
I think, therefore I
It is a
am.
long explanation, but in itself short for something so complex.
Yeah, you're
But to
oversimplifying
say
it.
Darwin or creationism is an example of pure human reductionism. It is true that many things or angles within the
Creation
theory
versus
of evolution are valid,
evolution.
such as the natural selection of the fittest. But it can only select the fittest individuals within the species and thus purify the genes of the group. But it can never
Ooh, sounds like eugenics.
create a species from a different one. So no, the human does not come from the monkey. The monkey is one thing, and the human is another.
What's the difference? Linnaeus couldn't figure it out. Darwin couldn't figure it out. Lamarck couldn't figure it out. What's the difference that separates us? What are the characteristics of all monkeys that apes don't have, or that especially specifically that humans don't have. Of all monkeys, what is the feature? Please tell me in the comments below. We're about finished up here.
A Neanderthal is not an evolved human. It was another species of being of humanomorphic appearance. So
Humanomorphic.
Homo habilis, Homo erectus, and all the others.
What about the hybrids? If they were their own thing, then how can we hybridize with them?
Use mutations to explain a modification of a species by trying to adapt to a new environment or ecosystem does not result in anything. It only ends up as theory.
I thought we were talking about dinosaurs. Okay.
One only
Okay.
sees that individuals that are outside their ecosystem tend to die, and that's it. Not grow scales or gills just because they live in a swamp. It is said
That's
that
not how
change is
evolution
very,
works. It doesn't
very
just...
gradual.
Somebody's explained evolution to you poorly, so it sounds silly. So it doesn't just... It's not the grow scales and gills. That's not... That's not the directions that evolution would take, or the types of changes that would be expected.
Little by little. It also doesn't square because it would take too much time, more than can be considered useful, because the conditions of the ecosystem
What you consider useful as a human does not matter.
could be a stimulus for the mutation would change faster by several times factors than the mutation itself.
Yep, only the mutations that could take hold would be the ones that mattered.
And it is also known that spontaneous mutations come from DNA damage, and almost never or never for positive purposes or outcomes for individuals. So, a species is already perfect in itself.
So there's species like coyotes and wolves that can interbreed. So how are they perfect? If they're perfect in themselves, why not keep them separate?
If it does not adapt to an ecosystem, it is because it is not its ecosystem. It is simply not what it was designed for.
Nothing was designed.
Thank
they
you
evolved.
very much. Super interesting. And what do you think about them saying that they were destroyed by a meteorite? Fear agenda? Meteorites hit all the time. But in itself, it's rare one of that size of extinction level. I see it as forcibly possible. If they did exist, then I would be more inclined to believe that they disappeared due to a change in the ecosystem in general over time. The Earth transforms the same way anyway. There is evidence of meteorite impacts, for example in the sea between Yucatan, Mexico and Cuba, which is where the meteorite that extinguished the dinosaurs is said to have fallen.
Shucks
And
a lube.
yes, there is a fear agenda component there, of course.
Fear agenda. What do you guys think? Is it a fear agenda? Are we being duped by the man to believe Big Paleo? To think that dinosaurs exist? Like Cosmic Agency is warning us here with their weird little girl thing that they got going on? Is this weird to anybody else? Is this in their thumbnails? I feel like look at that. These are children. I mean, am I wrong? They look like children. Down here, you get into there's more adult people. Like that's an adult, same woman. I think that's the same woman again. So there's an adult involved in this lady. But does she actually have these people, or is she having like voice things over a model picture? Animals that move in circles. We busted that wide open a long time ago. The circling creatures. That's an angel here. We've talked about that on the show quite a bit. more like veganism. Look at these. That's a child. I don't see the children like actually on camera in any of the videos though. It's just like the voice thing. So I wonder if the children don't actually are not just AI voices with images. That'd be one way to get past the algorithm. And these are supposed to be like the indigo children and stuff like that. These kids that are connected to other wavelengths and crap. It's weird how they put them in like Marvel superhero uniforms though. Like trying to make them look like they're fighting crime, or fighting terrorism or intergalactic threats. I guess they are trying to play off that they're facing intergalactic threats though. Was told to read their about section. So let's go in here and read this. I am Gozia Dusak I am from Poland, and I have spent the last 23 years exploring the world in search of what is beyond our physical reality. In 2017, I started an adventure together with Robert, beginning a direct contact with a Tajitan Swaruinian race of Pleiadian crew aboard the Tolika ship in Earth's orbit. Since then, we have been sharing our conversations and the stellar knowledge they share with us. Oh my, and they got Patreon and PayPal, and they got a website too. You want to check that out? Let's go see what they got going on. Oh man, you guys must not like this channel though, because I like cleared out my chat when I went and started watching this. It's like, nope, I can't deal. Yeah, this is their. It just has the same stuff on it. It's like I guess probably their backup for all their videos and stuff if they get yoinked. But they're still at it because I mean these most recent videos, 2 days ago, this came out. So the thing about this that's the most disturbing to me is this: 94,300. Or 94, yeah, 90, sorry, not 94,000, yeah, 94.3 thousand people are subscribed to this channel to listen to these people spin nonsense about alien interference. Yeah, it's so weird, and I can't even get keep 20 people engaged about why it's nonsense. That's the way of it, though. That's the freaking algorithm for you. It turns everything towards what's the most entertaining, not what's the most true. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us for Creation Watch, and this was a bit of a weird one for me. I'd never quite know what to make of these people. Sometimes it almost feels like they're doing an ARG or something, but they're making claims out there, and people are listening to them. So I gotta engage. I gotta say, hey, nope. Nope. So that's what I do. All right. So, please remember to be kind, take care, and we'll see you next time.